All right, welcome back to the Renaissance lesson one. Yeah, we ran out of time in the first part, so I'm kicking it up here. So, back to what I was talking about. So, Da Vinci really kind of crosses over into the science and the math world as well. So, why is because he just was good at everything. So, he figured he'd roll with it. So, through observation, and again, Da Vinci was known for going into the morgue at night and cutting up some bodies and figuring out how they work. But he also did this kind of figure out how to cure them, how to fix them, if you will, cure them from sickness. So this is all important because it builds off of what the ancient Greeks kind of started. However, they also found a lot of things wrong. They found out that animals and humans were not wired the same or made the same, I guess you would say. And again, through observation, they basically found out how things worked. So when you go into math and science, they're going to kind of intersect. And this is through the works of Nicholas Copernicus. He's really the basically the first modern astronomer. And he's going to be the person that's going to figure out one of the biggest, I guess, misconceptions of astronomy, that the Earth is in the center of the solar system. He found out that was wrong. It's actually the sun. So a lot of people believed that the Earth was because the Bible said it was. And when he said the sun is at the center, he directly went against the teachings of the church. And as you can imagine, that's not going to go over very well. So again, how did he do it all? With math and just kind of sitting and observing and charting night after night after night. And then that leads us into Galileo Galilei. So he proved all of Galileo, or excuse me, all of Copernicus's theories because he had access to a telescope and actually made a lot of improvements to it. So he also was not a friend of the church because he was disproving for fact that the sun was not, or the sun is at the center of the universe, not the earth. But those two are kind of go hand in hand. So other advancements during the time in science was in anatomy. And then you have Vesalius here, Andreas Vesalius or Vesalius, I can't pronounce it, I can't remember. But he's going to be basically the father of modern medicine and anatomy. So again, and we're talking about how people were dissecting bodies during the time. Why didn't they do it during the ancient and the Greeks? Is because it's thought that they angered the gods. So they didn't do it. And since religion is the center point of their culture, their life, they just didn't do it. But now they didn't have to worry about that. So now when you get into dissecting the body, he's going to figure out how veins work, how the hearts work, and so the heart works, and so on and so forth. So he figured all that out again by dissecting them and just kind of figuring it out. And his findings were so revolutionary and still revolutionary, or I guess important, is because it's the birth of the first modern textbooks for anatomy and becoming a doctor, and that's still being used. So stop and think, how did science advance during the time? All right. So going into the literature side of things, really the literature is important for a couple of reasons. But the biggest reason is traced back to this guy, Johann Gutenberg. And he's going to come up with something that's going to be important and revolutionary called the printing press. So he is going to be the first person to be able to come up with a machine that you can actually print the same page of something over and over and over again, increasing the volume of papers, which means things are going to be distributed, which then means people, if they could read, are going to become informed. So, who's going to take advantage of this? Different playwrights of the time, especially this guy named William Shakespeare, really known for writing a wide variety of plays. If you were to watch them or read them, you feel about every single emotion that you can. Know some of his most famous works, Romeo and Juliet. I know that's something we do here at the high school. But Hamlet, Macbeth, Merchant of Venice were all things that I had to read. So a lot of people kind of credit him as being the best. Fun fact, people don't really know what he really looked like. This is some people's best guess. But then you get into other examples. You have Miguel Cervantes, who was really one of the first slapstick humor type of guys, and he wrote this book called Don Quixote about a basically dementia knight, and it's actually pretty funny if you ever get a chance to read it. But then lastly, you have this guy named Machiavelli, and he actually wrote this thing called The Prince. And when it was all done, it really kind of became the playbook of how rulers should go. He questioned, is it better to be feared or to be loved as a ruler? So, if you know Michael Scott, he wants people to be afraid of how much they love him. JK. But, anyways, why this is important to us is again, this all came about during the Renaissance. So, stop and think, which new invention greatly impacted the literature of the Renaissance?